Ooh, testing, mic check, 1, 2. I think we're on, folks. Hey, welcome to our very first stream in 2022. My name is Ian, and today we're going to cover the topic of finding employment. Now, I won't be talking by myself on this. I have special guest Vincent. He is our manager in employment at RCD. So he's going to talk all about how you can benefit from this program, how he can help you in finding employment. So stay tuned for that. We will start at 1 o'clock as usual. Now, for those of you who are watching the live stream, so please wait patiently for another 4 minutes. For those of you who are catching a recording of this, you can skip ahead to the 5-minute mark. That's the start time of the show. So folks, we'll be back at 1 o'clock sharp. All right, folks, we're starting. All right, here we go. Hey, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. very first stream of 2022. My name is Ian Young, and joining me today, who will be talking about the tricks of getting good at finding employment, is my friend here, Vincent. Vincent, perhaps you can just talk a little bit about yourself and who you are, because for some of us who watched the stream in the last year, they may not be too familiar with who you are. Perhaps you can tell us who you are and what do you do here at RCD.
All right, awesome. So my name is Vincent. I'm currently the Employment Support Manager at RCD, and or under the Employment and Empowerment Project, or EP for short. At the moment, we have a diverse and fantastic team here at RCD. I actually have volunteered and worked at RCD before for about probably a little more than 10 years at the summer camp. And for the last few years before COVID hit, I was the head coordinator, so I had to interact with volunteers, staff members, the campers, their parents and guardians, and that was actually a very fun experience for me.
Fantastic. So you're not exactly new to RCD. So you've basically been helping and assisting, parents and the kids or the children who are attending the RCD summer camp. That was back a few years ago, before the pandemic. So you're no stranger to them, and so you've been around for about 10 years. Did you say?
I think so. Yeah.
Fantastic. Wow. You're almost as here as long as me. That's excellent. So now, tell me about this project that you're currently managing. Tell me the name of it. Who are you targeting? Because this is about finding employment, and what's in it for our participants. And of course, we are thinking of people who are people with disability, but it doesn't just cover the scope of people with disability, as I understand it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. So right now, it's called the Employment Empowerment Project. We actually work with youth, 16 to 30, inclusive, and we want to be able to work with all youth, but we're focusing on those with employment barriers. But to be eligible, you would have to be a Canadian citizen. You'd have to be a permanent resident or a protected person, and you'd actually have to be legally entitled to work in Canada. If you're able to fulfill all those criteria, then we'd also be assessing you through another method. The first step would be just to contact us, and we'll set up an interview, and we'll see if you're eligible and suitable for the position of our candidates.
Fantastic. So I see there's a poster that you sent to me, looking for job experience ? And then there's a mention of a 12-week wage subsidy, pre-employment assistance, on the job support. And tell me more about that. So is this how do you work with the participants in this project?
So basically, after you're eligible, we'll try to connect with you one-to-one in solving your employment needs. Depends on your situation as well. It depends if you wanted to try something new for work or whatnot. So the type of support that we offer is a little bit different. It's a little exciting. So we are federally funded by the government of Canada, and we'll reimburse the employer for 30 hours a week for 12 weeks.
Okay.
And
so it's just free, basically, from both ends. Employer, they get 12 weeks free of employment from the candidate, and from the participant side, they don't have to pay anything, sign up for anything. They just speak to you, and you try and match them up with a job. Is that it?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Sometimes you might need to do an interview with the employer just to see if you're suitable for the job. And also, basically that's how it works. It'll be a little different depending on the situation as well.
Excellent. Now, with regards to working with the employers, like what steps do you take in working with them?
There are actually a few different type of methods we could use. The traditional way would be to, after we interview you and kind of see your likes and your strengths, we might approach employers. So say if you are interested in being a barista for a certain area, a certain place, we might approach that place and also related coffee shops around the area, and we'll just inquire their hiring and if they would like to know more about this project that we have, and that we have a suitable candidate that's willing to work there. Another way would be if you're an employer, you want to contact us, we'll try to suit you up with relevant, suitable participants.
Right. So you're basically working with both parties directly almost at the same time?
Yes, yeah.
So did you literally go around to different employers just asking to see if they're interested in this project? Is this what
Yeah, actually I have done that. It depends on the situation, but yes, I have done
Cool.
that. Yeah, it is exciting. So there are a myriad of different ways I could do this. There is another option. If an employer has a volunteer or someone that they think would benefit from working full time, but they're not really sure if they're suitable or they don't have the funds to, we could actually interview their candidate to see if they're eligible for this project, and if they are, then they'll have someone that is a part of their team.
Okay, so my question here is on one of your slides that you sent to me, there's some expenses that this project covers. Can you briefly tell me about that?
Okay, yeah, of course. So basically, there are some travel expenses that you could claim. You just let us know beforehand, and we'll see if we could cover that. There are also some program fees that you might want to do. So if you are interested in, I'll go back to the previous example. If you're interested in becoming a barista, you might want some food safe, first aid, maybe.
Right. Like the training that's involved.
You have to train,
right?
those training. So we might be able to cover those the costs of those.
Okay. So basically,
programs.
we're aiming to be a zero barrier in terms of getting the person back in the workforce.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. Wow, that's a lovely program. So now, aside from the project, let us hop over to, do we have any questions so far? I know Jer here is giving me a signal with regards to a question, so we'll jump to that one question first. Go ahead.
So Sally is wondering that it sounds like Vincent's work is very similar to what Louise is doing.
Okay.
So what's the difference between Louise's doing and here?
So let me just repeat this question. The question is from Sally. Hey, thank you for watching us, Sally. Always good to have you here supporting us. Now, the question is about Vincent's project, and for some of you who may know Louise also is at RCD as an employment counselor of the sort. So she is currently conducting the job club and whatnot. So what she did before was very similar. So perhaps Vincent, you can tell us about what is the difference between Louise's project and your project?
Okay, so our project, since we have some funding, we could more directly engage with employers. I think for Louise, she doesn't have that connection, and also doesn't have that funding, so it might be difficult for her as well.
But Louise doesn't have that age limit as well, right?
Yes, yeah. So
that's
there are a few cases where some people came over, talked to themselves, and said that they want to find work, but they were too old, so I had to just refer them.
to Louise.
Yeah.
I remember I was working with Louise a few years back, and back then we also had that funding, similar funding as what Vincent is working on now. Basically, it's a very similar project. Back then it covered a bit more. It was education, it was about wage subsidy and so on. And right now the focus is similar, but just the scope is less. But also there was a restriction in age. So the one thing that we noticed with these sort of funding is always targeting this certain age. Is it 16 to 30?
Yeah, that's correct.
16 to 30. It was like that a few years back, and it's the similar situation now. So now Louise can focus more on the people who are outside this age group. Good question. Thank you, Sally. Okay. And my next question for you is, some of our members may ask this question. Okay, what's the trick in making myself more employable? How can I get people to hire me? What am I doing wrong or differently that nobody's looking at my resume and calling me?
I think a combination of education, training, some sort of professional references as well. Those are important, and volunteer and work experience. So our project directly relates to work experience. So it's 12 weeks of work experience, but the employer doesn't have to hire you, but we always want them to hire you. So we'll impress upon that. But those are actually very important. So those are a combination of those into making yourself more employable.
What happened? I'm just curious. We mentioned about the 12 week. What happens after that 12 week?
So it depends if you are kind of suitable for the role as well. It always just depends. But I think the main thing is, as long as you have the work experience, you're succeeding in life.
And then now, are the employers, are they encouraged to continue hiring this person after the 12 week, or do they have any obligation in doing that at all?
Yeah, they don't have any obligation, but we would kind of just talk more about their skills and everything, especially since they would be provided free training, free all that stuff, and it kind of be like a long 12 week long internship basically. So
Right.
They don't have to pay anything. So it should be really good opportunity for them to find out some skills and strengths.
And this way, the employer doesn't have to look for another person. If
Yeah.
the candidate is already effective in the company for the past 12 weeks, may as well continue hiring this person. At this point, there's no wage subsidy, but if this person is adding value to the organization or your company, then keep on hiring, and then you have another person who is familiar with the work.
I mean, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the point.
Awesome. All right, so next question is kind of like a trick question, tough question. What's the job market like during this time? Like some of our participants may ask, is this a good time to look for a job? Pandemic and all, and it's just the new year of 2022. Is this a good time to look for work?
I think any time is a good time for work. Although because of the coronavirus and because it is the New Year's, some places might not be hiring, as I have seen directly. And also, basically, youth and even young women are even more affected because of coronavirus. So there are some changing habits that we've seen. So you might see more of a online application that you have to hand in your stuff online, and because of all the online application stuff, there might be some more computer algorithms that would sort through the resumes. So I think at that point we'd have to redress that issue and just kind of make it more we'll just kind of teach you a little more about the other half.
The tricks and tips
Other-
of
yes,
working
yeah,
online and
trick
stuff.
tips, yeah.
But I did notice some of the application nowadays, they not only require you to submit like your electronic version of cover letter, resume, they sometimes ask you to record a video of yourself. Have you seen these recently? I think I've noticed a few of these companies asking, oh yeah, can you just quickly talk about yourself? This is the video, make sure your camera is on. Okay, record, that kind of thing. And it basically submit directly to the company, and they will see like a video of you basically along with your resume.
I haven't seen this directly, although I have planned for it. So if there are situation where an employer is asking for a video, we have the resources to do that with the participant.
Yep, definitely. So our participants, they're not strange to the idea of video conferencing as well, right? Some of them, they may have engaged into our like a Zoom sessions for many months, probably 2 years by now that I think about it. It's been a long time since we are doing these online sessions, and of course it's lovely to see hybrid classes a few months back, but of course we're now back to square one. Basically we're back onto the online world. But this is actually good. These are transferable skills that if you look good on camera, you're presentable on camera, then you do very well with a video resume, or at least what some of these organizations are requesting nowadays on their website. Do we have a question? A lot. We have a lot of questions. That's good. Let's hear it.
So first question coming from Dave, that he is wondering, can you elaborate more what's the employment barriers?
Okay, so Dave asks, what is the current employment barriers?
Okay, so they could be anything that would just be a barrier for your employment. So, for instance, you might be a single mother. You might have a dependent that has learning challenges that might make it more difficult for you to find work. You might have a physical or mental disability yourself. You
could be all kinds of
Yeah,
barriers,
could
right?
be all kinds of barriers, yeah.
Physical, visible, and invisible disability that gets in the way. Yeah, that's
and even like people that can't really speak English that well. So those have barriers. So we might have to kind of just work on our interview skills and our presentation. So potential participants that come in, we can actually assist them with that.
Do you currently have some participants with a language barrier?
I do have one participant that has a language barrier, so I would have to work with this participant to just improve on his presentation.
Right, and then of course there must be a first language that they speak, and perhaps connect with employers with similar language, and then that way the language isn't a barrier.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So especially in Richmond, there are a lot of employers who speak Mandarin, for example, or Cantonese. So this is just one way that we can get the language barrier out of the way in employment. Okay, awesome. Good. Next question.
June saying, can you demonstrate again what's the qualification for this program? Is that for anyone or any limitations?
So basically, June is asking about the eligibility of your program.
Okay. Yeah, so you'd have to be a Canadian citizen, as mentioned before. The eligibility is assessed by us. So if we find that you have employment barriers and it's significant, then we will definitely try to find you employment. But this isn't just us finding you employment. We'd have to work together in this as well.
And the age group is 16 to 30?
16 to 30.
Right. 16 to 30 years old. Okay, so so is that including 30 years old?
Yeah, 16 to 30 inclusive. So if you're still 30 and we find you an employer that's willing to work with you, if you sign the contract before you hit 31, then you should be good.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And again, even though this is this project is managed by RCD, Vincent here, it does not have to be for a person with disability, right? So a person with or without disability who is Canadian citizen, who is between the ages of 16 to 30, will be eligible for this program. Okay, excellent. Fantastic. One more question?
Yes, Eileen is wondering that will the employer provide any on-job training, or the participants need to have the skill set already?
Okay, so Eileen asks, will the employer provide on-the-job training, or is this something that the participants need to prepare ahead of time?
Fantastic question, Eileen. So the employer would actually have to provide all the training. We could provide some support, but it should be up to the employer to provide all the training. There might be some accommodations that might be discussed, but that would be before work experience starts.
Right. So as we're talking about disability and applying for a job, there's always this question that's in my mind, is the disclosure of your disability. So at what point, let's say you're working with a participant who has a disability, at what point is it important for the participant to review that and disclose that to the employer?
All right. So disclosure is a very iffy thing, as you might not be comfortable with it at all. If you read the job description, and if it actually kind of conflicts, your disability conflicts with the job description, then you should mention it, but you don't have to unless it's a safety concern.
Okay, so when you talk about safety concerns like lifting 20 pounds, and if you're unable to do that at some point during either the interview or anytime before the start time, or if they're interested in hiring you, you should review that information.
Yes, yeah. Especially if it's something to do with lifting a certain amount of weight. If you're unable to do that, then you have to let them know. Although it is beneficial for you to be a little more positive about it, and have some alternatives as well. So if there are a certain type of tool they could use instead of just lifting it up right off your back, then definitely just suggest that, and just be like, oh, I'm actually unable to do this because of a disability, but I want to tell you that I can if we have this item.
Okay.
And some items,
like some kind of assistive device would help.
Yes.
Whether it's like lifting or typing or working on a computer. Okay.
And sometimes these lifting devices, you might be able to get funding from that as well. So you could also suggest that to them as well.
Fantastic. Now, I was looking up my own question earlier. Like, the question is, what's the job market like during this time? I actually found an article published by BIV.com. This is Business in Vancouver. So the font is a bit small, but basically it's what they're saying right now is in 2015, for every one job, two people are trying to get that job. So it's very, very competitive, right? But as of now, and this is a very recent research done by them, 2022, there's one job for every person. So the stats here is at the end of 2021, BC had 165,000 reported job vacancy, which roughly matched the number of unemployed, one unemployed person for every reported vacancy. But of course, it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to have a job. No, it doesn't work like that. Companies are always looking for the best match. So whether you are suitable or you're the best match for the company, this is still going to be, they will still have to find out during the interview, submitted through your resume and cover letter to see if you're the best possible person for the job. So bottom line is, the company also wants the best bang for the buck, right? So they want to find the best person for it. So this is just some of the things that I found. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, no question. I have one last question from my end. We're a bit early, but perhaps if you have other things to talk about, Vincent, you can also talk about like probably some of your experience so far working in this position. But my question here for you is any general advice for people with disability looking for employment?
I think references is actually very important. If it's important for everybody, actually, as long as you have someone that could say that you do things like correctly and do things well, be it a family reference or a professional reference or references from like volunteer and stuff, you might be able to get a better foothold in the job market if you're able to get those type of references.
And to get those references, some of the best way is to do volunteer work.
Yeah, volunteer work, or even if you are eligible for our project, you might be able to get some references from the employer that you're going to be doing your work experience with.
I have written many reference letters and filled out many reference-related forms for our volunteers here at RCD. And let me just say that these volunteers are very, very dedicated in their work, and I have to thank them for all their hard work in the last year, because it wasn't easy. For people who were looking for a volunteer position, it was hard because you can't volunteer in person. And for people who they really don't have these Zoom experience or computer experience, it gets really, really tricky for them to volunteer. So I have to turn away quite a bit of people, just from last year, because we aren't able to conduct as many in-person activities. But keep looking for different types of volunteer opportunities. They will actually help you in securing your first job, or if you're planning to go into further study, volunteer work will actually find you these opportunities as well. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about your experience so far. So any without mentioning anyone in particular, but any interesting cases or challenges that you have faced so far?
Well, let me talk about a success story that
Sure,
I had recently. So this person said that they're interested in working in a certain field. I actually went to different types of organizations that were doing that field and tried to apply for this person. And I wasn't able to get any luck, as the job market was kind of small at that time. Although I was excited about hearing from this participant that they got going to get a job interview soon. So I set up a meeting with this participant. I talked about how this participant could talk about this project, could talk about herself, and all that. So just to prepare her. And so she brought up this project during the interview, near the end when everything was going well. And this participant was hired.
Oh, just like that.
Yes.
Oh,
I think in a week or so. Yeah.
Nice. So it's really, it comes down to, the person may be very similar in ability as other people who are applying, but other people may not have this particular project behind them, where they give the employer this 12-week incentive.
Yes.
And as a result of them mentioning this project, they got hired just like that.
And also, even talking about the interview and questions that they might be asked might be beneficial for them as well if they are kind of nervous.
Excellent. Awesome. All right. I think we're just at about the 30th minute mark, so I think this is a good time for us to wrap up. So folks, thank you for joining us today again. My name is Ian Young, and this is Vincent. And remember, our stream schedule is a bit different now. We are now streaming once every month, and we're targeting the last Thursday of every month, same time, 1 o'clock. So we may have time to time put additional videos in, So keep your eye on our YouTube channel as well. And remember, if you haven't done so already, please like our video, subscribe to our channel as well, just to stay on top of things. We got a lot of new ideas for sharing that. So do head over and check out some of the disability information that we have posted recently. They're very, very informative, and we're doing more of those as we go on. All right, this is the time we say goodbye, Vincent.
Okay, it's a pleasure meeting you, and thank you, Ian, for the interview.
Hey,
Cheers.
thank you for coming on. Have a good one, all. I'll see you next month.